Hello. So I am back recording another video. Um, and today I'm going to talk about answering the call of your soul. So it's been a very interesting time, and I don't think it's just been happening to me. I think that a lot of us, a lot of people around the world, um, are feeling this really strong sense of change, and this really deep desire to transform their life, to align more closely with what brings them joy and what brings them happiness. And I think a lot of us are searching for ways to move, looking for movement and mobility in our lives, and looking to get out of the systems and the structures that we have kind of been um, trapped within, or it feels like we've been trapped within because of the way that the world works right now, revolving around money, where resources are really tied up, where things are no longer kind of grown by us and created by us, but instead manufactured in these big companies, locked into these big systems with huge, power control, power centers that are like, the top 1%, and the rest of us, ignore my nail, and the rest of us are just down here trying to figure it out. Um, so, yeah, I think a lot of us are trying to look for a way to get out of that and somehow survive, but also live a life that is meaningful and that brings us joy. And that is a very, very valiant and courageous feat in this world. And not because I think it's unrealistic or impractical, but because I think that there is a lot of energies and people and systems working against us. And when I say us, I really do mean a majority of the people on Earth. A lot of us are just looking for ways to live life, and be happy and feel fulfilled and be joyful. And then there are people in power who want to maintain these systems and want to maintain control and want to keep people complicit and honestly unhappy and just workers. And that is not the way we're meant to live. And so I wanted to talk about my own experience because I am just like many of you. I'm just a 20-something-year-old living in a city, and I am in university as of right now. And I'm an artist. I like to tell stories. And I've been going through a year and maybe just a period of time of huge internal transformation, and it is now starting to kind of seep into my outside world and into the relationships that I have, the friendships that I have, my career path, the way that I see things, the way that I interact with people and engage with my life and the world around me. And this transformation has been an awakening that has allowed me to get to the bottom of what needs to change in my life in order to not feel trapped and to not continue patterns and cycles of unhappiness and overworking and overthinking and judgment and hypercriticalness of myself and loneliness and isolation and relationships and friendships and dissatisfaction with my life. And I'm actually generally a very positive, upbeat person. But I think that I can say for myself and for a lot of people that it's hard to recognize what true joy and true happiness feels like in a life where you are working and working to survive and to make money and to navigate these systems that don't feel natural to what it means to be alive and to be a creature, a human being, a member of the universe. And there's just so many conversations and so many innate rights of living creatures that are being suppressed on Earth because of power and control. And it can make a lot of us feel powerless and a lot of us feel hopeless, but I don't think we're powerless. In fact, I think that the masses, the people, have a lot of power, and I think that that's terrifying for individuals, certain individuals. I don't even really know all their names, but I think that it's so terrifying that, you know, they erase any knowledge and information that can get out there that can help people recognize that we are a big community and a collective of people who actually generally want the same thing, which is to be happy and to be in loving communities and relationships and friendships and with people that can build lives that are meaningful and valuable and not based around work. And that's a lot. That's a big conversation, but I want to start with a conversation on an individual level of what we can do to step back into our power as people, as individuals, as spiritual beings, and kind of reclaim our lives. So, I am, like I said, I'm 21 and I'm currently in university, but this is my last semester that I'm going to be attending university. It's November now, and in January I will not be going back to school. I will be taking a break, I guess, but I don't know if it's just a break. And I'm going to be moving, and I am going to be following my soul, my intuition, and exploring what feels good to me and what feeds me and gives me joy. And that looks like a lot of things. It's very specific to me and what I'm passionate about. But it feels really strange to say this because I am one of those people who have always kind of been on the right track. I've always kind of been good at school. I was never a rebel when it came to not following, the structured way of being successful and living your life to the best of your ability. I always went to classes. I did my work. I, took all the tests. I went to university, work jobs. I, do everything that you're supposed to do. And I've lived a very good life. I recognize that I'm coming from a place of privilege and even talking about uprooting my life and following my heart and all of that. So I don't come from the most dire circumstances. But I do know what it feels like to want more for yourself and to feel like you don't have the right to that. And this year, for some reason, there has been a huge shift, and suddenly it's like I can't sit in this feeling of discontentment and sadness and loneliness any longer. I can't stuff it down and focus on other things and make my dreams smaller and erase certain emotions and certain desires and replace them with ones that are more practical. I can't do that anymore. And all of this has kind of accompanied a spiritual awakening where I've begun to kind of reclaim my right to understand who I am and who we all are as not just human beings, not just people on earth, but as universal beings, as members of a much bigger, a much more vast universe, with collectives of beings all over the place, that we are connected to. And in realizing that I think we've all already always known that there's something bigger than us, that the universe is a big place. But understanding that it's so vast and it is so complex, and that it is not meant to make us feel small and alone, but actually empowered, and help us realize that there is not just one way to live life, and there is not just one path to go down, and that the way that things work on Earth and in this world where oppression rules, power rules, segregation of societies, and privileging of certain communities in order to maintain the status quo rules, that is not the way that we are meant to exist, and that's not the way we have to exist. And in fact, there's so much possibility for so much more beyond what we can even imagine. And what's hidden from us is the power of our minds and our souls and our intuition. What's hidden from us is the actual strength and the magic in listening to yourself and following what your heart tells you, following your emotions, which are often demonized and vilified and made to seem very insignificant and small. And we can connect that to the way we connect femininity, feminine energy, and emotions, and the way that feminine energy is degraded. But that all aside, human beings are magical, and we are extremely powerful, and we are meant to live lives that feel purposeful and that bring us joy. And we're not meant to just work within systems that feed one family and leave the rest of us to decay and just suffer without dreams and without hopes. That's not the way life is meant to be. And I don't know why I feel like emotional. I guess it's just because I have been receiving messages from my own ancestors and spiritual team and the universe around us that is saying that we're in this time of transformation, and we're in a portal right now. And there's a chance for a lot of us to make decisions now and to tap into our power, to step back into our power, to come home to ourselves and realize that we are not bound to, one way of life, and we are not, obligated to stay on the path that we're currently on. You're not in debt to anybody, and you don't owe anybody anything, and you don't owe, the world, the universe, these systems, anything that, doesn't bring you joy and does not fulfill you. And I say that knowing that there are a lot of, there's a lot of asterisks to that. I know that people's situations are a lot more complex, and I know that not everybody is going to be able to apply this video and this message to their lives and have it have the same impact that I hope it will, because the world is a really difficult place and people are in situations that should not exist but do exist. And so that breaks my heart. But I am saying this because I've generally been really unhappy in my life for a very long time. And it's not the type of unhappiness that is so profound that it takes over everything and it rules everything. Um, it's just an unhappiness and an unsettledness that lives deep down and just kind of stirs in you, and it grows over time, and some people learn to live with it. And I think that this system gives it a lot of names and tells us to, go talk to people about it, but don't actually do any fundamental changes to address what the real problem is, because that would be addressing the system as a whole, and the system can't go down. But I think that, like I said, we're at a turning point in our societies, and I think that a lot of us have a choice right now and over the next while to come back to ourselves. And it's terrifying because so many of us, even since childhood, do not know what it's like to actually listen to ourselves and to actually trust ourselves and to actually believe in ourselves and believe that we can be protected and believe that we are cared for and loved, and to believe that there's something bigger beyond us that wants happiness for us. It feels like a crazy concept sometimes, and I mean, if you're a religious person or a spiritual person, then maybe it's not so crazy to think about things that are bigger than you. But I think still, even then, it's all, for so many of us, and for me, I'll just speak for me, so much of my spirituality and like religious beliefs throughout my life had been framed in the context of still these systems. And I'm saying systems, and I know that's a very general word. I think you can imagine what I'm talking about, but I think it goes beyond just the big systems that we know of, like capitalism, like white supremacy, like patriarchy, like classism, and all of those things. I think it goes beyond that. It's something deep. It's something energetic that keeps us bonded to this way of life and makes us feel as if we are captives, but we're not. And it's this really cruel way of detaching human beings from themselves and from their souls and from listening to themselves, so detaching us from like our consciousness, our conscience, and making us feel as though listening to your heart and listening to your soul is some like, immature and naive act that is only for children or people who should not be taken seriously and do not deserve a voice and do not deserve movement and do not deserve space within our society, within our societies. And I think we can see that in the way that we treat people who do embody that energy a little bit more. Children are one of the most oppressed groups on earth, if you ask me. Children are like notoriously exploited. And from such a young age, so many of us are kind of just groomed into this subdued nature of following one path that has nothing to do with what we truly want and desire. And there comes a point where you even begin to forget what it means to want something and to desire something, to like a natural, actual, true desire that does not depend on the like context of these greater structures that tell us what life should look like and what success means and what joy means and what love is, what community is. And it's so violent and it's so destructive and it's so overwhelming, but it's not more powerful than you. It's not more powerful than me. It's not more powerful than people on individual levels and as a collective. That separation is hard, and realizing it and trying to find your way back when you really can't see how far you would come and you don't really know all the ways back, and there's so many walls that have been built up, so many obstacles, so many things that have moved, so much language that you just feels unnatural to you, that you don't understand. It feels impossible, it feels painful, it feels like punishment in some ways, but it's not impossible. And what it takes to get back to ourselves is what it takes to be liberated, and what it takes to taste freedom that is not done by war and done by violence, but done by a reclaiming of our souls. It's the most natural thing we could do. It's our magic as human beings. It's our birthright. And it's a choice that we all, if you can, and I really hope you can, need to start making, because we are starting to progress into a world and a society that is allowing people to truly feel like they are gods over us and control everything and make us feel so small and so helpless that you almost can't imagine yourself anymore. You can't see yourself anymore. I know it, like, I don't know. It's hard because we experience this shift and these changes that are happening sometimes on big levels, but mostly it's very small. And for many of us who are not living in the most dire of situations, it's not really going to seem like that big of a deal. But the sadness and the longing for something more should really be enough to drive us into action. You really can't go wrong when you're being honest with yourself and you're confronting yourself and you're saying to yourself, after so many years of just neglect and abandonment and internal isolation, that you love and you care for yourself enough to fight for yourself and to fight to get back the life that you could dream of as a child, and if not as a child, that your soul remembers. That your soul remembers planning for you and dreaming for you before coming here and having so much piled on that it was too hard to survive and work and live in this world and also remember that dream. But you have to remember. As hard as it is, you have to remember, and you have to find your way back, no matter what it takes, because I'm just afraid of a world where there won't be the option to pivot and to turn and to adapt and to make and to change and transform. I'm scared of a world that forces a oneness that is so inhumane and so corporate and cold that it just drains all meaning of life and joy and instills a reality of just work and suffering to survive and suffering to feel deserving of survival. I'm really scared of a world like that. And I don't think that that's where we're going to all head. And that's why I just want to put this out here, because I feel like so many people have already been thinking about this, and maybe this is just going to be a push to do it. To do whatever change, small change, change in mindset, change in your actual life that is going to put you back on the path towards yourself, towards your true home, your inner temple. And to see yourself as valuable and as so lovable and so deserving of everything that you want, that you truly, really want. And when we think about our desires, I think it takes time to recognize what those actually are. Because we have things that we think that we want based off of what we don't have right now, and based off of what we see others having, and based off of what the world tells us we need. But like your true desires, what you truly want, what you truly need in order to feel alive and feel happy, it takes time to figure that out. But discovering that is like discovering new life. It's so beautiful. It's so magical. It's indescribable. But it's something that is natural to everybody. It's something that is within all of us. It's different for all of us, but it's within us all. We're all deserving of it. And I just feel like I should share, that if you're feeling this way, you're not the only one. At the very least, I am too. And that there is more, that you can leave, that you can drop out of school if you need to, that you can quit your job, that you can go back to school, that you can find a new job, that you can choose your passions, that you can have a family, that you can find love, that you can create friendships that are beautiful and meaningful to you, that you can live in a place that fills you with joy and light, that you can be happy. Like, it's not something that only belongs to a few people. It's not a resource that ever runs out. Joy, happiness is something that belongs to everybody. It's all right. And I think that we should do and we should fight for everything that brings us closer to that. And anything that takes us away from that is the real battle, and that's what is the real war. Because look at what happens when people aren't happy. Look at what happens when people don't feel loved. Look at what happens when people are isolated, and look at what happens when people are surviving instead of living their lives. That's not the way things should be, and it's not the way things have to be, and for so many people, it's not the way things will be. But it requires a choice to be honest with yourself and to really think about where you're at right now in your life and whether you're being genuine and authentic to who you truly are and what you truly desire out of life. Yeah. I just, this video, I didn't realize I was going to be like so serious, but just, a message letting you all know that I see all of our power, and I see it as something really beautiful when used for good, and when used to help us reconnect with ourselves and with each other, just as human beings. And I really do look forward to a future where people are just happy and people can just breathe out. And I see it. I know it's real. I know it's possible and I know it's there. So, yeah, I'm gonna go now.